It was a cold morning in a big, impersonal city. The streets were bustling with hurried people who were oblivious to what was happening around them. Among the hurried pedestrians and the incessantly honking cars, a weary-looking woman walked, firmly holding the hand of her young daughter. Clara, with her unkempt hair and eyes revealing a life of struggles and deprivations, was leading Lily, a 5-year-old girl with an innocent and curious gaze, but also marked by an early need to be resilient. The clothes they wore, worn out by time and lack of resources, were more suitable for a mild climate than the biting cold of that morning. With each step, Clara felt the weight of the responsibilities and hardships she faced daily. Living on the streets was a constant battle for survival, and she knew she couldn't afford to falter. The nights were the worst, spent in makeshift shelters, often under awnings or in desolate parks, where the cold wind seeped through every crack and made sleep nearly impossible. She watched the faces of the people around her, hoping to find some trace of empathy, but most seemed to prefer not to notice her existence. Invisibility was a cruel armor that society placed upon those who needed help the most. Still, Clara remained steadfast, determined to find some way to provide a better life for Lily. Lily, on the other hand, despite her youth, seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. Her eyes shone with curiosity and hope, but there was also a depth of understanding that shouldn't be present in such a small child. She clutched her rag doll, the only toy she had, with a tenderness and affection that made Clara's heart ache. That particular day, Clara was determined to seek some form of assistance. She had heard rumors about a restaurant in the city center where they sometimes offered help to those in need. With a deep sigh, she gathered her strength and began walking in that direction, Lily by her side, hoping that fate would grant them some kind of miracle. As they approached the restaurant, Clara couldn't shake a mix of anxiety and hope. She knew that life on the streets was relentless, but she also knew she couldn't give up. Their survival depended on her courage and determination. With each step, the city around them seemed to grow more indifferent, but Clara kept her focus on the goal. She had promised herself that she wouldn't let Lily grow up without hope. And at that moment, even without knowing what the future held, Clara held her daughter's hand more tightly, feeling determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The cold wind blew, but Clara and Lily continued walking, two lost souls in a vast city, in search of a light at the end of the tunnel. Night fell over the city, bringing with it an even more penetrating cold. Clara, with Lily nestled in her arms, desperately searched for a safe place to spend the night. Their usual shelter was full, leaving them with no options. Feeling exhausted and defeated, Clara took refuge under the awning of a closed store, trying to shield Lily from the biting wind. The silence of the night was interrupted only by the distant sound of sirens and the hurried footsteps of passers-by who, as always, ignored her presence. As she tried to settle Lily to sleep, Clara realized that the little girl was too warm. The heat emanating from her body was unnatural, and concern began to grow in Clara's chest. Lily began to cough, a dry and persistent cough that made Clara feel a lump in her throat. Desperate, she tried to calm her daughter, murmuring soft and comforting words, but the cough only worsened. Clara knew she couldn't waste time. Lily's condition was rapidly deteriorating, and she needed medical help immediately. With renewed determination, Clara wrapped Lily in her worn-out coat and began walking through the dark streets toward the nearest hospital. Each step felt like an eternity, and the weight of Lily in her arms made the walk even more arduous. Tears streamed down Clara's face as she whispered promises that everything would be all right. When they arrived at the hospital, Clara was met with looks of disdain and indifference. The staff, accustomed to people living on the streets, seemed more concerned with maintaining order than offering help. With a choked voice and a racing heart, Clara pleaded for care but was informed that, without insurance or money, she would have to wait. Feeling helpless and with desperation growing, Clara found herself forced to wait in a corner of the waiting room, holding her increasingly feverish daughter. She looked at the faces around her, hoping to find some compassion, but only encountered indifference. The hours passed slowly, and Lily continued to worsen. Clara began to pray silently, pleading for a miracle, for anything that could save her daughter. She knew that without help, Lily wouldn't have the strength to hold on much longer. Finally, when all seemed lost, a nurse with a kind expression approached. She quickly examined Lily and, without saying a word, took her inside. Clara felt a wave of relief mixed with fear. She knew she could do nothing but wait and pray that her daughter received the necessary treatment. Sitting alone in the waiting room, Clara felt the magnitude of her situation. The desperation was overwhelming, but she knew she had to keep hope alive, no matter how difficult it was. On that cold, dark night, Clara faced the harsh reality of her life, but also the unbreakable determination to fight for her daughter, at any cost. The next morning brought with it a pale light that filtered through the hospital windows. Clara was by Lily's side, who was finally sleeping peacefully after receiving the necessary treatment. The last remnants of fever were beginning to fade, and Clara felt a wave of relief. But this feeling was quickly replaced by the harsh reality of her situation. Without money and without a place to go, what would come next? With a deep sigh, Clara decided she needed to seek help again. She remembered a rumor about a fancy restaurant in the city center where, occasionally, acts of charity occurred. With renewed hope, Clara took Lily and set off, determined to try her luck once more. The restaurant was a vision of opulence and elegance, a world completely different from the one Clara and Lily lived in. Clara hesitated before entering, feeling out of place and fearful of the looks she would surely receive. But her daughter's needs spoke louder than any shame, and she pushed open the heavy door, stepping inside with timid steps. Inside, the atmosphere was a stark contrast to the cold and busy street outside. The air was warm and perfumed with the aromas of sophisticated dishes. Clara approached the counter, where a snobbish waiter watched her with disdain. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice laden with impatience. I heard that sometimes you help people in need here," Clara replied, her voice trembling but firm. The waiter gave her a skeptical look and was about to send her away when a deep voice interrupted. "They can wait. Serve the lady and her daughter." Clara turned to see an elegant, middle-aged man sitting at a table in the corner. He was impeccably dressed and exuded an aura of authority and wealth. His name was Ethan, a millionaire with a complex past and a heart that, until then, seemed encased in a layer of ice. The waiter stepped back, clearly unsettled, and Ethan gestured for Clara and Lily to come closer. Reluctantly, Clara took Lily to the table. Ethan watched them for a moment before speaking. "Please sit down. What is your name?" he asked, his voice now softer and more attentive. "My name is Clara, and this is my daughter, Lily. We're going through a hard time, and I heard that sometimes you help people like us." Ethan studied them for a moment, his eyes revealing a depth of thought that Clara couldn't decipher. After a silence that seemed to last an eternity, he spoke again. "I understand. What do you need right now?" Clara hesitated, struggling against the pride that still remained. "We need food and a safe place to stay for the night. My daughter has been ill and I just want her to be okay." Ethan nodded, his expression unchanged. "All right, let's take care of that." He called the waiter, who quickly brought a hot meal for Clara and Lily. The look of surprise on the waiter's face didn't go unnoticed, but Clara was more concerned with feeding her daughter. As they ate, Ethan continued to watch them, lost in thought. Clara, not knowing what else to do, thanked him humbly. "Thank you, sir. I don't know how to express my gratitude." Ethan smiled, a smile that seemed rare on his face. "Let's start with this. Afterward, we'll see what more we can do." Clara couldn't believe the twist of fate that had come her way. That unexpected encounter with Ethan could be the key to changing their lives. But for now, all she could do was hold Lily's hand and feel a small spark of hope rekindling in her heart. Clara and Lily were warming up, savoring every bite of the hot meal Ethan had provided. It was an almost forgotten sensation, feeling full and warmth spreading through their bodies. However, the surroundings were not as welcoming as the food. The restaurant, a bastion of luxury and exclusivity, was filled with refined customers. Elegant dresses and impeccable suits made up the scene, and Clara and Lily's presence starkly contrasted with it. Murmurs started softly but quickly turned into audible whispers and piercing stares. Clara felt every gaze like a needle prick, every whisper like a judgment. Suddenly, a burly and well-dressed man, who seemed to be the manager, approached the table. His face was contorted in a barely concealed expression of displeasure. He looked directly at Clara, completely ignoring Ethan's presence. "Excuse me, madam," said the manager, his voice icy. "This establishment has a certain standard to maintain. We cannot allow situations like this to disturb our other customers." Clara felt her face burn with shame and anger. Before she could respond, Ethan slowly stood up, his presence dominating the room. He looked at the manager with a dangerous calm. "Situations like this?" Ethan asked, his voice low but filled with authority. "Are you suggesting that helping a mother and her daughter is a disturbance?" The manager stammered, surprised by the intervention. I just meant that maybe this isn't the right place." Ethan stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the manager. "Let me make something clear. If this establishment cannot offer a bit of humanity, perhaps I should reconsider my financial support for it." A heavy silence fell over the restaurant. The customers who had been whispering now watched with interest, perhaps realizing the seriousness of the situation. The manager paled, clearly aware of the power Ethan held. "Mr. Ethan, I apologize. I didn't mean to offend," said the manager, quickly retreating. "Of course, they may stay and finish their meal. On my courtesy." Ethan did not immediately respond, keeping his gaze steady. After a moment, he gave a slight nod. "Make sure all their needs are met," he said before turning to Clara. "I'm sorry about this. It seems some still need to learn what compassion is." Clara, still recovering from the shock, simply nodded, feeling both humiliated and protected. Ethan sat back down, his gaze softening as he met Lily's curious eyes. "Let's finish our meal," he said, his voice now gentle. "Afterward, we'll see how I can help you further." The incident at the restaurant was a turning point. Clara realized that despite the harshness of the world, there were still people willing to challenge indifference and cruelty. And at that moment, a small flame of hope began to burn more brightly in her heart. The next morning brought with it a pale light that seeped through the hospital windows. Clara was by Lily's side, who was finally sleeping peacefully after receiving the necessary treatment. The last remnants of fever were beginning to disappear, and Clara felt a wave of relief. But this feeling was quickly replaced by the harsh reality of her situation. Without money and without a place to go, what would come next? With a deep sigh, Clara decided she needed to seek help again. She remembered a rumor about a fancy restaurant in the city center where, occasionally, acts of charity took place. With renewed hope, Clara took Lily and set off, determined to try her luck once more. The restaurant was a vision of opulence and elegance, a world completely different from the one Clara and Lily lived in. Clara hesitated before entering, feeling out of place and fearful of the looks she would undoubtedly receive. But the need for her daughter spoke louder than any shame, and she pushed open the heavy door, stepping inside with timid steps. Inside, the environment was a stark contrast to the cold, bustling street outside. The air was warm and fragrant with the aroma of sophisticated dishes. Clara approached the counter, where a snooty waiter watched her with disdain. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice tinged with impatience. I heard that sometimes you help people in need here," Clara replied, her voice trembling but firm. The waiter gave her a skeptical look and was about to send her away when a deep voice interrupted. "They can wait. Attend to this lady and her daughter." Clara turned to see an elegant, middle-aged man sitting at a table in the corner. He was impeccably dressed and emanated an aura of authority and wealth. His name was Ethan, a millionaire with a complex past and a heart that, until now, seemed encased in a layer of ice. The waiter stepped back, clearly taken aback, and Ethan motioned for Clara and Lily to come closer. Reluctantly, Clara led Lily to the table. Ethan watched them for a moment before speaking. "Please have a seat. What is your name?" he asked, his voice now softer and more attentive. My name is Clara, and this is my daughter, Lily. We're going through a tough time, and I heard that sometimes you help people like us. Ethan studied them for a moment, his eyes revealing a depth of thought Clara couldn't decipher. After a silence that felt like an eternity, he spoke again. I understand. What do you need right now? Clara hesitated, struggling against the remaining pride she had. We need food and a safe place to stay for the night. My daughter has been ill and I just want her to be okay. Ethan nodded, his expression unchanged. All right, let's take care of that. He called the waiter, who quickly brought a hot meal for Clara and Lily. The surprised look on the waiter's face did not go unnoticed, but Clara was more concerned with feeding her daughter. As they ate, Ethan continued to watch them, lost in thought. Clara, not knowing what else to do, thanked him humbly. Thank you, sir. I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for us. Ethan smiled, a smile that seemed rare on his face. Let's start with this. Then we'll see what more we can do. Clara couldn't believe the turn of fate she had been given. This unexpected encounter with Ethan could be the key to changing their lives. But for now, all she could do was hold Lily's hand and feel a small spark of hope rekindling in her heart. The next morning, the first light of the sun streamed through the curtains of the cozy room where Clara and Lily had spent the night. It was a stark contrast to the makeshift shelters and cold streets they were used to. Clara woke slowly, feeling a bit disoriented by the softness of the bed. Beside her, Lily was still sleeping deeply, her face serene for the first time in weeks. Ethan had promised to return in the morning, and Clara, although grateful, couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty that washed over her. Why would such a powerful and influential man care about them? With these thoughts in mind, she began to get up, determined to face whatever came next. Soon after, a light knock on the door announced Ethan's arrival. He entered, bringing with him an aura of confidence and determination. Clara tried to hide her nervousness, but Ethan, with his sharp perception, immediately noticed. Good morning, Clara. How was your night? He asked with a warm smile. It was good. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for us, Clara replied, her voice a bit shaky. Ethan nodded, as if to dispel her worries. You don't need to thank me. As I said, I'm here to help. But to start, I want you to meet some people who might be essential in this process. He gestured, and then a warm-looking woman entered the room. She had a kind smile and her eyes sparkled with compassion. Clara, this is Rebecca. She's a social worker and works with me on various community projects. Rebecca, this is Clara and her daughter, Lily. Rebecca extended her hand, her genuine smile calming Clara's nerves a bit. It's a pleasure to meet you, Clara. Ethan told me about your situation, and I'm here to offer all the support necessary to help you start over. Clara shook Rebecca's hand, feeling a wave of relief. It was comforting to see that Ethan wasn't acting alone, and that there was a genuine support network behind his words. First, let's make sure all your immediate needs are met, Rebecca continued. We have a safe place where you can stay, and we'll also take care of medical and educational issues for Lily. Lily, now awake and a bit shy, watched everything with curious eyes. Ethan knelt down to her level, smiling at the little girl. And you, Lily, how are you feeling today? Lily, a bit hesitant, responded softly. I'm feeling better, sir. Ethan chuckled gently. I'm glad to hear that. And you don't need to call me sir. You can call me Ethan. The small interaction brought a touch of lightness to the atmosphere. Clara felt her heart warm as she saw Lily smiling shyly at Ethan. Rebecca continued the conversation, explaining the next steps. Clara, will start with the paperwork needed to get a job and stable housing. We have a team ready to help with all of that. And in the meantime, Lily will have access to education and medical care. Rebecca's words brought renewed hope to Clara. She realized this wasn't just a momentary act of kindness but a real opportunity to change their lives. Ethan and his team were offering a helping hand at a crucial time. As they discussed the details, Clara couldn't help but feel a deep gratitude. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long time, There was a light at the end of the tunnel. And with people like Ethan and Rebecca by her side, she felt that perhaps this new beginning was truly possible. The following days were a whirlwind of changes for Clara and Lily. Thanks to Ethan's intervention and Rebecca's dedication, they were moved to a cozy little apartment in a quiet neighborhood. Clara couldn't believe how quickly things were happening. For the first time in a long time, she had a key to a door she could call her own. As they entered their new home, Clara and Lily were greeted by a modest but well-maintained space. Simple but comfortable furniture and a fully equipped kitchen awaited them. Lily ran around the apartment, laughing and exploring every corner with a joy Clara hadn't seen in a long time. That laughter was music to Clara's ears, a sign that hope was returning. Clara, still processing the reality of her new situation, sat on the couch and looked around. It was a dream coming true, a safe place, away from the cold and uncertainty of the streets. She felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension. Could she really trust that this new life was sustainable? Ethan and Rebecca weren't just offering a roof over their heads. They made sure Clara had all the support she needed to start over. Rebecca visited regularly, bringing food, clothes, and checking if Clara needed anything else. She helped Clara fill out forms and understand the available assistance programs. Lily was enrolled in a nearby school. On the first day of class, Clara accompanied her, holding her little hand as they walked. Lily was nervous but also excited about the prospect of making new friends and learning new things. Clara, in turn, felt a pang in her heart as she left her at school, but she knew it was an important step for her daughter's future. With Lily in school, Clara had time to focus on finding a job. Rebecca connected her with a job training program that offered courses and guidance to help people re-enter the workforce. Clara chose a business administration course, determined to learn new skills and build a career that could support her family. The first days of the course were challenging, but Clara felt motivated. Each new lesson was a step toward independence. She made new friends in the program, people who, like her, were trying to start over. Sharing stories and experiences with them gave Clara a sense of community she hadn't felt in a long time. Ethan, though busy with his business, made a point to keep track of Clara and Lily's progress. He visited occasionally, bringing small surprises for Lily and encouraging Clara to keep pushing forward. Each visit from Ethan was a reminder that they weren't alone on this journey. Despite all the support, Clara still faced moments of doubt and fear. At night, after Lily fell asleep, Clara would sit alone, reflecting on everything that had happened. She worried about the fragility of her new situation, fearing that any small setback could bring it all crashing down. But at the same time, she felt a growing strength within herself. Clara knew she needed to be strong, not just for herself but mainly for Lily. Days turned into weeks, and each small victory was celebrated. Lily's first high grade at school, the first praise from an instructor in the business administration course, the first time they managed to pay a bill without help. Each achievement was a step forward, a sign that they were on the right track. The initial impact of Ethan and Rebecca's help was profound. Clara and Lily not only gained a home, but also the hope and dignity that life on the streets had stolen from them. The journey was just beginning, but for the first time in a long time, Clara felt she could look to the future with optimism and determination. And, above all, she knew she was no longer alone. As days turned into weeks, the relationship between Clara, Lily, and Ethan began to deepen in ways none of them had anticipated. Ethan's initial support was a crucial foundation, but over time, a more personal and meaningful connection began to form. Initially driven by a mix of compassion and responsibility, Ethan started to visit Clara and Lily more frequently. His visits ceased to be mere check-ins on their progress and became genuine moments of companionship. He brought books and toys for Lily and began helping Clara with her business administration studies. The living room table, where Clara sat to study at night, became a common spot for gatherings, laughter, and exchanges of experiences. One afternoon, Ethan showed up with tickets to an amusement park. "I thought a day out of the routine would do you both good," he said, smiling as he handed the tickets to Clara. Lily jumped with joy, her eyes shining with excitement. Clara, surprised by the kindness, accepted with a grateful smile. The outing to the park was a milestone. Ethan had as much fun as Lily, chasing her around the rides and buying cotton candy. Clara watched, her heart warmed by seeing Lily so happy. There was a lightness in the air, a sense of normalcy Clara hadn't felt in a long time. At the top of the Ferris wheel, with Lily between them, Ethan and Clara shared a look that spoke more than words could express. It was a moment of pure happiness, shared in silence. Over time, Clara began to open up more about her past. On one of those nights, while Ethan helped Lily with a puzzle, Clara started talking about the difficult times she had faced before meeting him. Ethan listened attentively, respecting her pauses and offering support with encouraging words. He shared some of his own struggles, creating common ground where both could understand and support each other. Lily, for her part, bonded with Ethan in a special way. She began to see him as a father figure, something she had never had. The stories he told, the advice, and even the small gestures of affection created a strong bond between them. Clara saw this with a mix of gratitude and apprehension, worried about what might happen if Ethan ever stepped away. On a sunny afternoon, while they were at the park, Ethan, Clara, and Lily sat under the shade of a tree. Lily was busy drawing, and Ethan took the opportunity to talk to Clara. "Clara, I never thought I'd get so involved with someone like this. You've become an important part of my life," he said, his eyes fixed on hers. Clara felt a lump in her throat. "Ethan, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done. You've changed our lives." He shook his head, a gentle smile on his face. "You've changed mine too, and I don't want this to end. I want to continue helping, to be present." Ethan's words were a silent promise of continuity, of a future where Clara and Lily wouldn't be alone. Clara felt tears of gratitude well up, but also a newfound strength. The relationship developing between them was not just about support, but about friendship, about a chosen family. As night fell, with the park lights beginning to shine in the background, Clara, Ethan, and Lily headed home, feeling more connected than ever. Their relationship was not just about help or charity. It was about finding something lost in themselves and in each other, something that gave them hope and a new sense of belonging. As the months went by, Clara and Lily's lives began to change in deep and unexpected ways. The stability they now enjoyed was a stark contrast to the uncertainty and fear they had known before. Each day brought new opportunities and challenges, but also new hopes and accomplishments. Clara woke up every morning with a renewed sense of purpose. With each day of her business administration course, she felt more confident and capable. The instructors, aware of her situation, offered extra support and encouraging words. Clara absorbed it all with fierce determination. She wanted more than just to survive. She wanted to thrive and build a solid future for Lily. One day, while reviewing her resume with Rebecca, Clara received a call from a local company interested in an interview. Her heart raced with nervousness and excitement. Rebecca helped her prepare, giving tips on how to behave and what to expect. On the day of the interview, Clara dressed carefully in a professional outfit Ethan had bought for her. The interview was a success. Clara impressed the interviewers with her sincerity, determination, and passion for learning and growing. Days later, she received the news that she had been hired. She could hardly believe it. After so long struggling to find her place in the world, she finally had a real chance to start a career. The excitement was so intense that, when she told Ethan and Rebecca, tears of joy streamed down her face. Lily was also flourishing. At school, she excelled in her classes and made friends easily. Her teachers noticed her curiosity and intelligence and encouraged her to participate in extracurricular activities. Each of Lily's achievements was a victory for Clara, who saw in her daughter's success the confirmation that they were on the right path. With her new job, Clara was able to save and plan for a more secure future. Ethan, true to his word, continued to be present, offering advice and support. He helped Clara open a savings account and better understand how to manage her finances. Ethan also provided moments of leisure, taking Clara and Lily on outings and events, creating happy memories that replaced the difficult days of the past. On one of these occasions, Ethan took them to an outdoor concert. Under the stars, with music filling the air, Clara felt a deep peace. She looked at Ethan, who was holding Lily's hand, and realized how much he had become an indispensable part of their lives. The change in their lives was not just material. Clara began to see herself differently, no longer just a survivor, but as a strong woman capable of creating a better future. She allowed herself to dream again. She dreamed of the day she could buy a house, of the day Lily would graduate from school, and of all the possibilities that now seemed within her reach. The community also began to notice the transformation. Neighbors who had once looked at them with suspicion began to greet them with smiles. Clara made friends, participated in local events, and felt truly part of the neighborhood. There was a sense of belonging that she had never felt before. These moments of change did not erase the painful memories of the past, but Clara began to view them in a new light. Each difficulty overcome was a testament to her resilience, and each small victory was a reminder that they had been strong enough to get to this point. And so, Clara and Lily's lives continued to transform. They were no longer on the fringes, but at the center of their own stories, writing new chapters full of hope and possibilities. And by their side, Ethan was there, not just as a benefactor, but as part of a new family they had built together. Despite all the positive changes, Clara and Lily's lives were not immune to challenges and conflicts. The journey to a new life, however promising, still presented obstacles that tested their determination and resilience. One of the first challenges Clara faced in her new job was adapting to the work environment. She worked hard, but sometimes felt inadequate, especially when comparing her limited experience with that of her colleagues. In meetings, she found herself hesitating, unsure about her contributions. The fear of failing or being judged made her anxious. One time, after a particularly difficult presentation, Clara left the office feeling defeated. She called Ethan, who quickly sensed her distress. "Meet me at the cafe next door," he said. When Clara arrived, Ethan was waiting with an encouraging smile and 2 cups of coffee. "You look worried," he observed. Clara sighed, tears forming. "I feel like I'm always one step behind. What if I can't keep up? What if I fail?" Ethan took her hand, his eyes steady on hers. "Clara, you are stronger than you think. Every challenge is an opportunity to learn. You're not alone in this. I'm here, and I know you'll overcome it." Beyond professional challenges, Clara also faced internal conflicts. The memories of the past still haunted her thoughts. On lonely nights, when Lily was already asleep, Clara found herself revisiting the difficult days on the streets, the cold nights, and the constant struggle for survival. The financial insecurity, though more controlled, still cast a shadow in her mind. Lily, in turn, faced her own challenges. At school, despite her progress, she began to feel the pressure to fully adapt. Some children were cruel, making comments about her past life. One afternoon, Clara found her crying in her room. "Sweetie, what happened?" Clara asked, kneeling beside the bed. Lily wiped her tears, hesitant to speak. "Some classmates said I don't belong here. They said I'm different." Clara's heart ached hearing this. She hugged Lily, feeling her daughter's pain as if it were her own. "Lily, you're an amazing girl. Don't let other people's words make you doubt that. We all have our stories, and yours is one of strength and courage." At the same time, the relationship between Clara and Ethan faced its own tensions. The growing closeness brought out complex feelings. Ethan, though careful and always present, had a busy life and responsibilities that sometimes kept him away. Clara, fearing to become a burden, avoided asking for extra help, even when she needed it. One night, after a long week of work and caring for Lily, Clara received a message from Ethan, notifying her that he would need to travel for business. The news, though expected, left her feeling sad. She missed him and feared that physical distance might turn into emotional distance. During Ethan's trip, Clara found herself dealing alone with a problem in the apartment. A pipe burst, flooding the kitchen. Desperate, she tried to manage the situation, but frustration and exhaustion overwhelmed her. When Ethan called to check in, Clara broke down. "I can't do this on my own," she said through tears. "I feel like I'm failing." Ethan, on the other end of the line, felt his own helplessness. "Clara, you're not alone. Even from a distance, I'm with you. I'll take care of it as soon as I get back. In the meantime, call the maintenance service, and I'll cover the costs." These moments of vulnerability and conflict did not break Clara. On the contrary, they strengthened her spirit and determination. Each challenge faced, each conflict overcome, was a testament to her resilience and the strength of the new life they were building. Even in the difficulties, there was a thread of hope that kept Clara moving forward. She knew the journey was long and full of obstacles, but she also knew she was no longer alone. With Lily by her side, Ethan's support, and an inner strength that grew each day, Clara would face any challenge that came her way. As time passed, Clara began to experience a profound and remarkable transformation. The personal growth she was undergoing was not just about adapting to her new life, but about a genuine internal metamorphosis. Every challenge she faced, every small achievement, contributed to a significant change in who she was and what she believed she was capable of achieving. At work, Clara began to stand out. The confidence that once seemed like a distant dream now manifested in her actions. She became increasingly involved in challenging projects, offering creative solutions and demonstrating a keen understanding of the company's needs. Her colleagues noticed the change. She became a respected and admired presence in the office, someone who not only completed tasks but brought a fresh perspective and energy to the work. The administration course, which initially seemed intimidating, was now a source of empowerment for Clara. She threw herself into her studies, dedicating extra hours to learn and grow. The classes were not just a means of acquiring knowledge, but a space where she rediscovered her own abilities. With each new concept mastered, each successful project, Clara felt her self-confidence bloom. In her daily interactions, Clara began to notice a change in her way of thinking and acting. She approached problems with a resolution mindset, seeking solutions instead of being consumed by discouragement. This shift in perspective not only improved her performance at work, but also influenced how she handled personal challenges. Clara's transformation was also reflected in her relationship with Lily. She had become an even more attentive and inspiring mother. She understood that how she dealt with her own challenges taught Lily about resilience and hope. Clara used these lessons to support Lily not only through difficult times, but also to celebrate her achievements. She encouraged her daughter to explore her passions and believe in herself, just as she was learning to do. The relationship with Ethan, though complex, also contributed to her personal growth. The deep conversations they had, the shared experiences, and the friendship they developed helped Clara understand more about herself. Ethan challenged her to see life in new ways and confront her insecurities head-on. He not only supported her but gently pushed her out of her comfort zone, helping Clara see herself in a more positive and empowered light. At home, Clara began to establish new routines and habits that reflected her transformation. She created an organized study space, started cooking healthy meals, and maintained a balanced schedule between work and leisure. The environment that had once seemed like a temporary refuge was now a true home, a place where she and Lily could thrive. Conversations with Rebecca, which had started as practical help, became a source of wisdom and guidance. Rebecca, with her experience and empathy, offered Clara valuable advice on balancing personal and professional life, and on how to handle life's ups and downs with grace and confidence. As Clara advanced in her journey, she became an example of personal transformation to those around her. Her friends, colleagues, and even some of her neighbors noticed the difference. Clara was beginning to be seen not only as a woman who had overcome difficulties, but as someone who had found a new strength and purpose. In moments of reflection, Clara would sit alone and think about how her life had changed. The painful past was still there, but it was now part of a larger story, a story of growth and rebirth. She began writing in a journal, documenting her victories, learnings, and dreams. It was a way to celebrate each step taken and to remind herself of how much she had evolved. Clara realized that her personal growth was not a final destination but an ongoing journey. She was constantly learning, adapting, and strengthening herself. Each day was a new opportunity to surpass herself, challenge her limits, and build a life that reflected her deepest aspirations and values. The atmosphere in Ethan's elegant apartment was filled with an intriguing calm. Clara and Lily were there, a visit that had become almost routine. That particular evening, Clara sensed a slight tension in the air, a feeling that something was about to be revealed. Ethan had asked them to come over earlier than usual, claiming he had something important to share. As Lily played with some toys that Ethan had provided, Clara and Ethan sat in the living room, lit only by the soft glow of a floor lamp. Ethan seemed more serious than usual, his expression reflecting a mix of nervousness and determination. "Clara," Ethan began, his voice a little hesitant. "There's something I need to tell you. It's about my past." Clara looked at him, her heart racing. "What happened?" Her voice carried a tone of concern mixed with curiosity. Ethan got up and walked over to a small shelf, where he retrieved an aged wooden box. It was a discreet box, but Clara noticed it had an air of importance, as if it held something valuable. Ethan placed it on the coffee table and, after a brief sigh, opened it. Inside the box were old photographs, letters, and a diary. Ethan took out one particular photo and held it up to Clara. It was a black and white image of a young man with a determined look, standing next to a woman and a child. Clara felt a pang in her chest upon seeing the sad and familiar expression on the woman's face, which resembled her own mother's. "This is my family," Ethan began, his voice choked with emotion. "When I was younger, my father was a successful businessman and my mother was a woman dedicated to charity. They taught me early on about the importance of helping others. But behind the appearances, there was much more suffering than I realized." Ethan turned a page in the diary, showing a passage that detailed a personal struggle and a devastating financial crisis. "My father made poor choices in business, and what seemed like a perfect life started to crumble. Before I could fully understand what was happening, my family lost everything. My mother was deeply depressed and eventually passed away. My father withdrew, and I was left to deal with the loss and failure. The silence between them was palpable." Clara listened attentively, absorbing the magnitude of what Ethan was sharing. It was as if, suddenly, she saw a new facet of Ethan, one filled with pain and personal challenges he had faced. "I moved to the big city and worked to rebuild my life," Ethan continued. "Deep down, I knew I wanted to use my experience and resources to help others, just as my mother would have. It was always a way to honor her memory and deal with the grief. And that's why, when I met you, I felt such a deep connection. Your story resonated with mine, and I wanted to offer the kind of support my mother always offered to others." Ethan's words were heavy and filled with emotion. Clara felt a wave of understanding and empathy. The man she knew as a successful and generous businessman had a personal story that reflected pain and overcoming challenges, just like hers. It was a revelation that changed the way she saw Ethan, offering a new perspective on his actions and motivations. "Ethan, I didn't know," Clara said, her voice low and soft. "This changes a lot of what I thought. I didn't imagine what you had been through." Ethan shook his head. "You didn't need to know, Clara. I just wanted you to understand that there's a reason for everything I do. Helping you and Lily is part of my way of finding meaning in my own pain and doing something positive with it." The weight of the words and the depth of the moment created a new connection between Clara and Ethan. It was a revelation that brought them even closer, showing that both carried stories of struggle and redemption. At that moment, the empathy and understanding that arose between them were palpable, and Clara felt that their relationship had become even more meaningful. The following months brought notable changes for Clara, Lily, and Ethan. Life had transformed into a tapestry of new beginnings and ongoing challenges. But, as always, things had a way of taking an unexpected course, and fate was about to offer a conclusion that no one could predict. It was a sunny spring morning when Clara and Lily arrived at the site of a community event, which Ethan had suggested they attend. The park was decorated with colorful bunting, and people were bustling around among stalls and activities. It was an event celebrating the community spirit, with music, food, and attractions for all ages. Clara felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Ethan had been talking about a surprise for weeks, but never revealed what it was. She tried to focus on enjoying the day with Lily, but her mind was occupied with curiosity. The highlight of the event was a large stage where Ethan took the microphone, his face serious and determined. The crowd quieted in anticipation. Clara and Lily were in the front row, their eyes fixed on Ethan. "Good morning, everyone," Ethan began, his voice clear and strong. "Today is a very special day for me. I want to share something with you that has been a dream of mine for a long time." He paused, looking directly at Clara, who felt her heart race. Ethan continued, "As many of you know, some time ago I met an incredible woman, Clara, and her daughter, Lily. They have faced immense challenges and have shown remarkable courage and resilience." Clara's eyes filled with tears as Ethan spoke. She could feel the emotion in his words and knew something significant was about to happen. "I have always believed that to truly honor my mother's memory and make a difference, I needed to do more than just offer occasional help," Ethan explained. "I wanted to create something lasting, something that could really transform lives." With a dramatic gesture, Ethan pointed to a large banner that had been hidden until that moment. When the banner was removed, it revealed an image of a new building, a community center and shelter for families in vulnerable situations. The center had classrooms, offices, and recreational areas, and was clearly designed to be a place of support and learning. "It is with great pride and emotion that I announce the opening of this center, which will be known as the Refuge of Hope," Ethan declared. "This space will be dedicated to helping families like Clara and Lily's, offering support, education, and the resources needed for a better life." The audience applauded enthusiastically, and Clara, with tears in her eyes, felt a wave of gratitude and admiration. The surprise was monumental, and Ethan's vision was becoming something that transcended any individual gesture. After the speech, Clara approached Ethan, her hands trembling slightly. "Ethan, I don't know how to thank you enough," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. "This is more than I could have ever imagined. You've transformed our lives in a way I never thought possible." Ethan smiled gently, touching Clara's shoulder. "It was your strength and Lily's that inspired me to do this. Without you, I wouldn't have found that motivation. You are the reason for all of this." The ceremony ended with a celebration full of joy and hope. Clara and Lily found themselves surrounded by friends and new acquaintances, all celebrating the beginning of a new phase. The Refuge of Hope was about to open its doors, symbolizing not just a new opportunity for many families, but also the realization of a dream shared by everyone involved. That night, as the sky was lit with stars and the event lights began to dim, Clara and Ethan talked in a quiet corner of the park. Each of their paths, though filled with ups and downs, had intersected in a way that created something lasting and beautiful. "I've always believed that, in the end, life gives us what we need," Ethan said. "And today, seeing all of this, I know we are exactly where we should be." Clara looked at him, a serene smile on her lips. "And I think that, by finding each other, we discovered more than just help. We found a new form of hope and a shared purpose." As the night fell and the music turned into a soft whisper, Clara and Ethan remained together, watching the lights fade and reflecting on the journey they had taken. With the future now filled with new possibilities and hopes, what followed was not just the end of a story, but the beginning of a new chapter for all of them. Click on the video being recommended to you now.